All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our fourth parent hour. Just like the previous ones, I see some repeat attendees. So let's do a quick audio check. We don't want to go 10 minutes into this and realize you guys couldn't hear us. So if someone could type in the chat box if you can hear me. All right, and can you see the slides? All right, thanks, Jamie. Jamie's our MVP, definitely. So tonight's topic, and I know these have taken different directions each week, so whatever comes up, feel free to type in the chat box. But our plan, given that we're in the second week-ish of October and in the fifth week of the semester, is to start talking about midterms and support services. So we have a nice large panel tonight. I'm Associate Vice President Jessica Nicklin for Student Success. And joining us, we have James Brino, our Student Government Association President, and Sue Fitzgerald, our Associate Dean for Student Engagement and Inclusion. And our guests this evening include Pat Morelli, our Director of our Centralized Tutoring Center, and Chrissy Riley, one of our first-year advisors and Assistant Directors in the Center for Student Success. We also decided that since we are talking about preparing for midterms and support services, that we wanted to bring in more students. James has been doing a great job, but we figured we'd bring in a couple more to get that perspective, which is really, we think, the most valuable. So we are joined also by Yuli Daichi, an Executive Vice President for Student Government Association, and also John Lamada, VP of Student Affairs for Student Government. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. So we're going to kick it off with Pat Morelli for the Centralized Tutoring Center.
So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're really excited at the university about this new department. It's the first time the university has had all of its tutoring in one centralized space. And so far, so good. Things seem to be rolling out really efficiently. We've got tutors that cover a variety of topics for us. The location is in the main library, the Harrison Library. And because we're in the library, we can spread out from that hub space that we have in our suite that used to be the writing center. I think maybe we can see the next slide. Oh, quick. Okay,
there you go.
Thank you. So these hours will probably have a lot more meaning for your students. This is the first time we have tutoring extended deep into the day. We used to have shorter shifts in the writing center, and in other units on campus, there was less organization and less structure. So for the first time ever, we've got extended hours. We have hours on Sundays, which is a big study day here on campus. And all of these hours provide support in all of our courses and all of our disciplines. We've been pretty busy in the afternoons and the evenings. When I left the office this evening, there were students that were busy tutoring and waiting for their tutees to show up. So that's a very exciting operation for us. This looks a little different than the way I prepared it. Okay. So this is just a list of maybe 6 or 8 of the most popular courses or disciplines that are being covered by the tutoring. The Tutoring Center will always offer writing tutoring. That's one of its hubs. Our hot courses, if you will, are math, biology, chemistry, and physics. We've done a lot of work in addressing engineering requests, history, psychology. And because we have a variety of colleges here on campus, we offer tutoring in things such as ear training, piano performance. So most of the tutoring is done in the library, but some of it is done in our science labs and in our performance studios and things of that nature. We have different formats for the tutoring. We specialize in one-on-one tutoring, but because this is our first semester with this new model, and we're dealing with nearly 85 tutors located out of one space, and because we have so many requests, we've addressed as many as 250 to 300 requests for tutoring appointments. We use one-on-one, of course, but we encourage small group sessions as well. The advantage to that is one student doesn't have to do all the work, so to speak. The students are expected to do their own work, but if you've got a couple of peers with you and everyone is asking questions, weighing in on the material, then it's sometimes easier to get things really moving forward at a more efficient speed, if you will. We encourage that the students make appointments. That way when they show up, someone is actually waiting for them and they've got their session planned out. But we do have drop-in services for writing and all of the disciplines. And all of that availability is posted outside the suite so the students can drop by, see what's available, take photos of the days that are good days for them, and go forward with their sessions. Some of the tutoring takes place in other locations in the library, and because some of our best tutors are also athletes, they still revert back to study areas in athletics. And as I said earlier, we use music studios and performance spaces as well. So it's always a good idea for tutors to know what their job responsibilities are and for the students using our services to know what the expectations are. So we always tell our students who are using our services, we can't do the reading for you. That's not part of the tutor's job. We won't write their papers or their lab reports, but we will certainly give them feedback at any level that they're at, whether they're generating ideas, selecting topics, maybe they're having difficulty gathering source material. And because we're in the library, of course, that's a really good fit with the reference librarians. We don't do their homework. We have guidelines for things such as take-home quizzes and tests and exams. And courses that are writing intensive, there are often papers that constitute exams. And we will work on those with students only if we have the professor's permission. We're very conscientious about not crossing any ethical boundaries that make our work questionable to anyone. That's one of my goals, to make the center as credible as possible on campus. I guess maybe the next one, Jess. Okay. So what do we expect from our tutees? We try to communicate to our tutees that we are a professional office and that they shouldn't treat us any differently than they would say their doctor or their dentist, or their hair salon, or the dentist, or the auto repair shop. So that means we appreciate it if they arrive promptly, that they're well prepared for their session. They let us know in advance if they have to cancel and can't keep the appointment, that they have all of their relevant materials with them, whatever that means for that particular course. And we want them to be actively engaged. It's important for me, if I'm breezing by, to hear two voices, the tutor and the tutee, so that there's a conversation, there's a dialogue, there's lots of questions and answering, and again, that active engagement, that active participation in the session. The tutee owns the session, not the tutor. So we want the tutee to be as responsive and participatory as possible.
Does Hillier have its own tutoring?
Pardon me?
Hillier, do they have their own tutoring in addition to?
Hillier has an academic strategies department which provides some tutoring, but our center is available to all of the university's registered students. So Hillier students come to our center as well. And I realize this doesn't apply to your students, but we see grad students and other students as well in all of the university's colleges. If you're registered, you can come to our center.
Yeah, so if you hear your students saying, I'm really struggling in this class, one of the first questions I think is, have you talked to the instructor? And then, have you gone to the tutoring center to see what opportunities are there? And it's something that's included in student fees, so there's no, additional cost or anything associated with that.
It's important too that students realize that there shouldn't be any stigma ever attached to seeking tutorial support. It is in fact, in my opinion, a way that students can demonstrate that they are resourceful, that they're getting the biggest stretch out of their tuition dollars. It helps them become members of the campus community at large. And there is lots of research that shows us that there's a lot of growth in scholarship and social skills and other things as well for both the tutor and the tutee. So it's really an important thing for them to feel comfortable with that. Some of the additional dividends that come out of the tutoring, it's just a natural derivative that we talk about task and time management skills. One of the things that the tutors are particularly effective at is telling their tutees how they actually get their work done. If this were my assignment, if I had to write this paper, if I had to write this lab report, this is what I would do, this is how I would do it. They break things down, they help develop stages and steps, if you will, in the different assignments. Sometimes students are having difficulty because they don't really know how to take their notes well, so tutors can help with that on occasion. We make sure the student knows how to use all of their instruction materials, their textbooks, from front to back, a table of contents and glossaries, and how do you use the visuals in a textbook to supplement the written text and things of that nature. We don't pride ourselves or bill ourselves as test-taking experts, but that comes out of tutoring as well. And ultimately, as I suggested a few minutes ago, both for the tutor and the tutee, there's a lot of personal growth, social development. They become well-connected members of the university. They see their peers enjoying success. They realize that it's very cool indeed to be smart and effective and successful, and so we can have them come back. And sometimes students who were tutored in their first year become tutors in their subsequent years.
And that's something students that have gone through the experience of the course, then tutoring others, can really speak to. I don't know if you guys have any experiences to add from tutoring or.
Well, I used to work there during my sophomore year, and it actually came as a consequence of me going there for 2 tutoring sessions. I believe my freshman year. That was for, I guess it was grammar and mechanics that I seek help with.
Oh,
wow.
Whoops. Somebody fell down on that job.
But the following year, I ended up becoming a tutor, and it's honestly a very weird transition to seeing from becoming a tutee to tutor and understanding the skills that you develop from the process. I can say that I profited a lot, or had a lot of benefits come out of those sessions. Especially since, well, I'm an international student, and I've always had that concern about grammar mechanics, and to have somebody just go over my writing, it really helped me calm me down and feel more confident about my academic abilities.
So I guess before one other question, speaking of writing, the Tutoring Center also offers writing services, right? Yeah, so that's something, if, sometimes I think it's really shocking first year students get a paper back and it's all marked up, and it can really be a hit to the self-esteem, where getting a little bit of support and help and resources, that are available can be really beneficial.
One of the most difficult bridges for first year university student writers to cross is from high school classes that were perhaps more creative. I hear students say all the time, I didn't do academic writing, we did creative writing. We could write anything we want. Nobody selected a topic for us. If they did research, it was with one style manual. And once they come to the university, of course, we raise the bar on all of that. They have to do academic writing, and much of the writing that they do through the course of their years is driven by research. So they have to know how to use sources and do documentation and things of that nature. A lot of that is tedious. It's not necessarily very difficult in some cases, but it can be tedious. And so they need to sort of build some of those skills and put them in their toolkit, so to speak, so they can do their academic writing more independently as they go through their studies.
Good. All right. This is you, Chrissy?
This is me.
All right.
Good evening. So what I think is really important to stress is that what is a active study strategy? A lot of times I hear students, especially first year students, saying, I'm studying and I'm studying really hard and I'm not doing as well on the exams as I would like. So a lot of the times that means that they're doing passive study. So I think it's important to define active study strategies. It helps with retention of information. It's manipulation of words, symbols, ideas, really to retain the information at a much deeper level of encoding. So how do you choose effective study strategies for specific classes? There's a lot of different techniques that students can do, depending on their major. Obviously, that's going to really define what active study strategy that they do use. So if you do flip to the next slide, I have some examples of. There we go. Some passive study strategies that are common misconceptions that students do use, and then really some active study strategies that really can make sure their studying is really utilizing the best of their time. So a lot of times students will say, you know, I reread my lecture notes and that should be good enough. But really what we really want them to do is to look at their lecture notes and make sure they're identifying main parts, main components on it, and really explaining it in their own words, not just in the terms and the wording of the professors. So assigning texts and articles, a lot of times they'll just reread them and not really, you know, changing the chapter headings, looking for key themes, writing their own notes on the side of the articles. So sometimes just rereading the text and the articles isn't efficient enough. Really need to make sure that they're diving into that material. Again, another misconception is just, you know, assigning problems and exercising. So what they try to do is to try to solve the work that they already solved in class, other than working through their own examples in the math classes or in the biology labs or the chemistry labs. So really making sure that they're challenging themselves differently. With PowerPoint slides, again, what they usually do is just print them out and read them. So really, again, making sure that they're asking themselves questions. So really, the whole point of active study strategies is rearranging the information into their own words, own terms, and really becoming fully engulfed in that material. So making sure that they're really actively studying really yields better results on exams.
I remember I used to highlight and then take notes on what I highlighted and then take those notes and then take more notes to condense. And I would never even go back and look at the notes that I originally did, but it was just the process of doing that always helped me retain. So it is going deeper and instead of just, you know, like you said, passively reading.
Yeah, another big one that I always see or hear students doing is that they rewrite their notes and they're not actually writing anything differently. They're just literally copying over their notes, which takes a lot of time and doesn't yield that, you know, high of a benefit that we really are looking for. Another thing that really is important, this is just a whole bunch of examples, so feel free to read through these at your own time, but stress management. So with midterms coming up in a college and university, it's way different than high school. So a lot of stress can happen. So managing that, making sure that they're, you know, practicing good sleep habits. Sleeping, that's important, not staying up too late and then obviously trying to cram, you know, last minute, that's not going to be helpful. Making sure that if exercise is important and a good de-stressor for them, that they're still exercising regularly. Physical activity really can help burn off a lot of that stress. You know, either limiting or eliminating caffeine. You know, we want to make sure that they are able to sleep, and obviously it can elevate their stress response if they're drinking too much of it. And then I think some key things is just really realizing their limits, learn to work within the limits and set realistic expectations. If they've never necessarily been straight A students, I don't think the expectation that they're going to get, you know, straight A's on all their exams or all their midterms is really something that's realistic. So really want to make sure that we're setting realistic expectations for them and, you know, making sure they're seeking the support of their friends and their family, and, you know, laughter can really be a great tension reducer too. And then if you want to click to the next slide, so this obviously feel free to go back at your own pace and look over some different alternatives you can suggest to your students. And then the next thing really we want to make sure is that they're reaching out to their first year advisors. We are here to help them. Our doors are always open. So I encourage all of my first year students to, you know, find us. We're going to be in our new space come Monday, so really easy for them to locate us. And we really can, you know, make sure that they're getting connected to the tutoring center or getting connected to their professors, and really making sure that they're seeking out the support they need.
And we talked about this a little bit at orientation, if you remember, and I think it was through one of the little skits that we did, but we're using a platform called Compass to send what's called flags if there's student concerning issues in classes. But if you hear that your student got a flag, they're not in trouble, it's not on their permanent academic record, it's just that a professor is worried maybe about their performance or their attendance, and it alerts their advisor and it alerts them to, you know, something needs to change. So, you know, if they do get a flag, you know, to talk to their first year advisor, you know, go see a tutor, talk to their instructor, and use that as feedback. Not, you know, again, it's not they're in trouble, and, you know, it's just more information to help them succeed.
Yeah, and what I've been encouraging all of my first year students is to come see me before things get stressful. And that our appointments don't have to be about stuff that's going wrong. It could be about stuff that's going right, and I want to hear about that too. So again, I could be a good, a good support for them to reduce some of that stress and just have that mentorship.
And to answer one of the questions, and I typed my email in the chat box, if you would like to get these slides after the presentation, just send me an email and we're happy to send them along to you so you can share with your students. All right.
So I've listed our majors. So we have pretty unique majors. So I am in the mechanical engineering with a concentration in acoustics program, and I'm a senior.
I'm John. I am a junior in the psychology program.
Hi everyone, I'm Yuli again. I'm a junior majoring in political science, mathematics, and psychology.
Geez, you're a underachiever, huh?
I always get that joke.
So we just wanted to briefly talk about some tips to share with your students for midterms. So midterms will be coming up. They are a little bit different than, I would say, high school midterms, where there is a set schedule that these exams are going to be taking place. Professors choose to have midterm exams. They may choose to have more than just 2 exams during the semester. They may have 4 exams during the semester. So there's not a set week where midterms will happen. They could really be from this week to next week to the week after, even to the beginning of November as well. So it's really smart to have your student kind of look at their full schedule and say, I have 2 exams this week and I have 2 next week, so when should I start studying for each? So an example that actually just happened to me today, I had 2 exams this morning and they were both midterm exams. So over the weekend and on Monday, I was studying for both and had to split my time up, and it was quite difficult just because I had 2 exams back to back on the same morning. So it wasn't like I had some time to decompress. I really had to know exactly what was going on for both exams before I even walked into the first one. It also didn't help that there was a baseball game on Monday night that I was distracted with. But
Last night too.
yes, yeah, exactly. So, but it really is time management is, I think, the best tip that I can share, or that I can share with you to then share with your students is get a calendar together, get a planner, and map out day by day on and even hour by hour if that's how your student would like to study, and say from this time to this time I'll be studying for 1 exam, and make sure that they're starting not the night before, but they're actually starting 4 or 5 days before the exam, getting all the materials together, making sure they get any questions that need to be answered with a professor or a peer, and then continuing and studying small increments and really retaining that information. I'll turn it over to anyone else.
Yeah, so just going off what James excuse me, just said, a big thing is that all professors give out a syllabus at the beginning of the semester. So they pretty much tell you when your midterm, when your final, when you have a quiz, when you have a test, all in advance. So it is a time management thing. So it's really just about staying on top of your work. I know he just said he had 2 tests today, so splitting it off during the weekend is a big thing. Honestly, for me, if I stay consistent and on top of my work, like over time, instead of pushing it off to the last minute, you kind of have less stress. I think the stress builds up because of the procrastination. But if you look at that schedule, you look at when your tests are, and you just spread it out, it really makes it better. And really just find comfort. It depends like what classes you're taking, but let's say, like for me, psychology, I like working more by myself when I study. But if it's like a business class or something like that, it'll probably be more in a group setting. So it just really depends. You need to find that comfort. Am I better studying by myself, or am I better studying in a group?
Hi everyone, I'm going to like to share my 2 cents with you all as to how I manage my triple major. I can say that going back to the tutoring center that Professor Morelli mentioned, it's a big resource for me. And even though I do my best to be a very high achieving student, I would like to reiterate that there's absolutely no there should be no stigma or no shaming as to using the tutoring services. It at no point shows that sort of you might not be adequate or you might not be achieving enough. It's actually, as Professor Morelli said, it's a sign that you actually are willing to work and to better. Another resource, sometimes some classes do share a lot of hard material. That is true, and it might involve issues of deeper learning. One thing that is really great about here is that your professor gives you a lot of availability in their office hours, and they always give you the chance to go have a meeting with them, discuss material a little bit deeper, and sometimes it's actually the professors of the same class who have given me the tools or some techniques about how to study best for the exam, what I am to expect from the exam, what type of questions will it be, and which methods would be more effective. So I would definitely encourage you to, when talking to your students, if they reveal there's some kind of stress about a class or about a certain material, while you suggest going to a tutoring center, also suggest that they set up an appointment with one of their professors. It really yields great results. Another thing is, of course, school does get stressful. Midterms sometimes do seem to overpower you. I would go back to Christy's point that for me, exercise is a big point. I might not have all the time in the world, but I always try to set off at least 30 minutes just to go for a quick run, just to release all that tension. It really helps clear my mind.
I can definitely agree. Right after my exams or after the meetings that we had today, I went to the gym it was less than I normally do because I had other things to work on, but just kind of distressing and doing that really helped me today at least.
And you guys are all clearly involved. You're an SGA. I know you're involved in other things on campus. You have triple majors, or how do you structure? Because something we talk about is how involved should first year students get, in protecting their time for studying, but also, if there's too much free time, sometimes that backfires as well. So what do you recommend for that?
So one big thing, I didn't join student government right away. Freshman year, I kind of came in a little later. So it was just finding that kind of time to get used to my classes. I think it's a big thing first semester with freshmen. Yeah, you want to get involved, but I think you need to find at least comfort within your classes. Find that time management because it takes time. Even it took me probably 2 years to right now I'm a junior. I think this is the best I've ever managed my time. So reality, you just gotta basically find that time. Take it one step at a time. Don't try to do too much at once.
Something I've been hearing from a lot of my students saying, well, I have too much time and I don't know how to effectively structure my day out. So I tell them as much as possible to, once they're up, stay up for the day. I know that sounds really hard for college students, but a half-hour nap can turn into an hour and a half, can turn into 2 hours, and then they wake up groggy and they're more tired than when they started. So if you're up, stay up, and even if it just means you have to go to Starbucks and get an extra shot of espresso, then stay up and just make sure you're really being productive in your entire day. Or even just going and working in the library if you need to change the scenery, if you're studying in your room and you're getting claustrophobic or you need to change your scenery, to find that place where it's a nice change of pace that you can study in, but make sure that they are structuring their day, set a routine. If they're getting up at 9 o'clock Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and 8 o'clock Tuesday, Thursdays, on the weekends, maybe don't sleep till 3 p.m. So just really creating a structure.
Yeah, just going off what Chrissy just said, me personally, I've learned to go to bed the same time every night and try and wake up around the same time every day. That kind of makes me feel not as tired. So I think that's a big thing.
And I can also agree that going from your room to the library to a common space, studying really breaks things up, and you're able to do a lot more and focus a lot easier. So if you're in the library for 7 hours every day, you're really not going to be that productive. You're going to go on your phone, you're going to look at social media, you're going to check your emails. So if you go in the library for 1 or 2 hours, grab something to eat, and then go to a common space on campus and study there for a couple hours, then go to your room, talk with your roommates for a little bit, and then continue studying there for a couple hours. Really breaks things up, and it gives you a new perspective on what you're trying to study. So I definitely recommend that. Also, Starbucks in our library is great. So make sure to grab coffee as well if you're going to be up for a little bit.
Yeah, another thing, I don't talking so much here. But,
That's great.
another thing, all of you was saying, for my major, I believe, me personally, it's a lot of content, a lot of, basically staying on top of, what we've been talking about in our lectures and our classes. Really just, like you said, going from place to another, that really just clears your mind. We don't want any, college students studying for 8 hours straight, nonstop. Because if that was the case, you'd be really stressed. So no one really wants to do that. So.
And it's also possible, we're talking about midterms, but that you could have 5 classes where you actually don't have any midterms, where the exams are structured throughout the semester differently, or you have more papers, or, things in the Hart school look a little different than things in psychology. So it's also not a one size fits all for everybody in terms of style and the demand of the program. So we have a question, how do we know if a student got a flag? So this would be, the information that's encompassed is covered under FERPA. So if the FERPA is signed by your student, if you are to be in touch with the academic advisor, they would be able to give you that information. But it would probably be a good idea to start with the student and say, hey, I heard about these flags. Have you happened to get any? And maybe, start the conversation there. But if FERPA is signed, then the student, you can get that information from the advisor.
And to also add to that, so students are knowing they're getting these quote unquote flags because the professors are copying them on them. So if there is an attendance issue or if they didn't do so well in an exam, they're getting the same notification that all the first year advisors are seeing. So they're going to see exactly the wording that is going out. And then additionally to that, the first year advisors are reaching out to them, getting them in our offices, scheduling meetings to see how we can help them. Maybe it's getting them to the tutoring center, but we're also reaching out to them too. So they're pretty aware that they're getting these flags.
And so I guess there was a new system that they're using now with the flags, but 2 years ago I actually got a flag, I guess, from a professor. And the reason was that I wasn't logging into Blackboard enough to view the content. So that is something that I encourage all your students as well. Log on to Blackboard and see if there's materials that your student can read and look at and study and things like that. So not all the flags may be bad flags, I guess. They can even be good flags as well, or just like hey, you should probably look at this material or something.
Yeah, it's a way of getting the students' attention. Our attention.
Oh, it definitely got my attention.
And opening a conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, so the good flags that we call them are called kudos, and I just gave one out today for our students who's really active, really participating, and really adding a lot of really great value to my success seminar. So I gave them a kudos just to let them know I recognize you and you're doing a great job.
So you could also ask them if they got any kudos if you want to start the conversation in a positive way. And the nice thing about this point in the semester is everything you're learning, it's not too late. If you're having this conversation at week 11, 12, it might be a different conversation to have. But, in the 4th, 5th week of the semester, there's still a lot of time to get caught up or to change strategies or have conversations, get a tutor. This isn't waiting until right before the final exam and really hoping to pull it off. There's a lot of time. So I think that, when those first grades start coming in and students are feeling discouraged and, it really, it's far from too late.
I guess one thing that I could add as well is, even if you have that first exam and your student doesn't do as well as they like to have done, that's not the end of the world at all. Professors will always help you, work with you, teach you, or even help you with the things that you did wrong and show you why you did them wrong. And there's always room in between the semester with extra projects and quizzes and other exams. So even that one bad grade at the beginning of the semester is not going to seriously impact the entire semester if you work with the professor and show them that you're trying and really putting in the effort to learn the material.
All right, so we'll give you guys a couple of minutes to think about if you have any questions, if you want to type in something that has to do with this or really has to do with anything. And then I will put the panel on the spot to think about any advice you have. We're in the 5th week. What are we 6? 5, 6? 6 weeks? Oh my goodness, time is flying.
Day 2 of week 6.
Day 2, week 6. Okay, we're in the 6th week. If you guys think about how you felt in your first year, any advice or, from parents' perspective or from, any perspective, think through, what advice would you give? And parents, I'll give you a couple of minutes to think if you have any questions. Feel free to type them in. Okay, we are unmuted. So one question came in, are there tutors available for computer programming? And the answer is yes.
We have tutors for computer science courses that are taught here at the university, and that's one of our satellites, I guess we should call it. That tutoring takes place in a room different from where this center is located in the library. And I don't remember the room, but if the student needs tutoring in computer science, we have that posted on our board outside the center as well, so they see that schedule and figure out where to go. We have 2 or 3 upper class computer science students who handle that. Thanks.
Yeah, so few classes, especially in the first year, that students wouldn't be able to get a tutor for. There's tutoring for almost everything.
That's true.
Yeah. Yep. So visit the tutoring center for the availability and time. All right.
One of the things we will tell the students when they come to the tutoring center is we will suggest, we won't order them, we will suggest that they speak with their professor. I can't stress that enough. It's really important for students to talk with their professors so that both get to know each other as persons, as individuals, and then that conversation goes forward into a relationship where the professor can help the student, the professor sees the student working, the student begins to understand the relationship between effort and hard work and so on and so forth. It shouldn't be, there shouldn't be a line of demarcation between the student and the professor. They should be crossing that line and becoming acquainted and going over the material together and so forth.
Yeah, and we're a small enough university where, you know, students are a number and we know our students. So if our students are coming to see us, and, you know, I can speak from the perspective of a faculty member, I know who's putting in the extra effort and who's really going above and beyond. And I think that really makes a difference. We don't have to go in a circle. So whoever wants to give their advice or thoughts, feel free.
So I think my number one, I guess, piece of advice for any first year student is just to get involved. So that's where I've met my lifelong friends, or hopefully lifelong friends, where I've met and made those experiences that will probably last a lifetime, and gotten to know people on different levels than just like surface, like, hi, how are you doing? Like actually getting to know them and where they're from and their experiences into college. And so really just getting involved in clubs, organizations, sports, really anything. You could even just become involved with your floor in Hawk Hall and just hang out with a bunch of people all the time. But I really encourage just to get involved in something so then you can make friends and really connect with people, so you learn about them and then also learn about their experiences.
Another suggestion that I would have in terms of, you know, relationship of parent and student is that check in on them every now and then, make sure they're doing okay. And one thing that I really appreciate my parents doing is, especially during my first year, because I think that's the year where, I mean, you enter college, trying to find yourself, but it's also the year where I think you form all the habits as to how you're going to educate, how you're going to study, how you're going to take care of yourself. And of course, appreciate you when they're telling you they're studying so much and they're staying up really late at night, but at the same time, please try to put the message there that they also need to take care of themselves. Not that they will sort of hinder their studies. I think that will enhance their performance if they take better care of themselves, if they rest more. It's just something that I feel like being reminded by your parent becomes a little bit more valuable. I can also say, because we were discussing this before, as an RA, it's usually a period of midterms where we see students being in most need of things such as more support or, you know, more free time to find themselves or relax a little bit. So while we do our best on this side to remind them of the resources that we offer, and during your conversations with them, like I would say, always feel free to remind them that we do offer a variety of resources, not only the tutoring center, but also counseling sessions, success, I believe it's sessions with your success advisor. So there's such a variety of resources, and while we do our best to advertise it here, once again, as I said, from my experience, your parent telling you to follow up on those resources, it really, really has a big impact. And it also has a big impact on how the student will continue their academic career in the successive years.
One thing I always loved when I was a student, obviously some years ago, was during midterms when my parents or my family would send me care packages. So as much as you possibly can, I would say send them a little bit of love from home. I always really enjoyed that. My mom is great at that. So it doesn't have to be something big. It can just be something small just to know that you're cheering them on. Also, I would say if they do go home from now until the end of the semester or now until midterms, or if you guys come up, I would say bring them something from home that they can just have with them. So whether they were on a sports team in high school and that was really important to them, bring that sweatshirt with them. So when they're feeling homesick or at a lull or things didn't go great well, they can put that sweatshirt on and know that they have the team that they're a part of back at home supporting them too. So just a picture, a sweatshirt, a blanket, just something that can give them that encouragement, I think really goes a long way.
And now there's Amazon Prime, which
There's
didn't
Amazon
exist
Prime.
when we were in
That's
college,
right.
like 2-day free shipping.
Yeah, so those care packages can
Yeah.
really send them something from Amazon.
Did you sneak out without saying anything, John? Or did you get yours?
Sorry.
You're okay. I was just thinking back to what James said about getting involved, and I think we've been trying to hammer that home the past 4 parent hours and to all the students. But that comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes. So you might be thinking, well, my son or daughter's an introvert and would never go join a club, but you can get involved and be part of the community by being a part of the tutoring center as a tutee or a tutor, or getting involved in a research lab or joining a professional society. So if being a red cap or being in a club or sorority or a sports team isn't for your child, there's definitely other ways to get involved. So we can help them, or other advisors can help them think outside the box a little bit. Something we were also talking about when we were on mute is that this is the time of year where students start getting sick. When it's hot, then cold, then hot, then cold, and then the flu starts. And as much as possible, encouraging them, and we talked a lot about this tonight, I think, of staying healthy, vitamin C and sleep and, whatever self-care they need. This is the time that they're going to start, getting that first, if they haven't already, first illness. And there are free flu shots October weekend, so next weekend. And I think there'll be some other flu clinics as well. So they'll be able to get the flu shot right on campus. So, encourage them to do that.
There's also a therapy dog on
Yeah,
campus.
yeah.
So Hodges is our on-campus therapy dog, and he's great. I'm a dog lover myself, so when I see a good dog on campus, it's a good stress reliever. So encourage your students to go visit Hodges. Great.
And it's funny how petting a dog can make homesick students feel so good because they miss their dogs, and that came up with our students last night of, I really miss my dog, I'm really sad, and just wanting to pet a dog or be near a dog can be so nice. Such a little thing, but it can be so nice. So, well, guys, I mean, we like to stick to the 9 o'clock, but it looks like we might get out a little early. So I'll give you another minute to see if you have any questions. I'll type my email in the box again, and if you want the slides, happy to send them to you. Or if you want to follow up with any of the folks who joined us tonight, that I can help connect you. And I think that's pretty much it, unless anyone has any other questions. Have a good night, everybody.
Night.
Thank you.